and welcome to your Monday morning episode of NBL Now, brought to you by Code Sports. We've had no NBL action this weekend because of the FIBA break. I've absolutely missed it, but I've enjoyed watching the Boomers and the Tall Blacks meet. They meet again tonight. And NBL returns on Wednesday, which is making us all very happy. This week, though, we've taken a deep dive into the teams and looked at their report cards from the first 10 rounds of NBL 26. And we're going to do that again today with the Southeast Melbourne Phoenix. And I'm going to be breaking it down with former Boomer and dual Olympian Chris Anstey. Chris, how are you?
Yeah, I'm very well, Kelsey. Looking forward to getting stuck into this one.
Yeah, it's been probably my favourite episodes of NBL Now, really deep diving into the teams in their first 10 rounds of this season. Let's start with the Phoenix head coach, Josh King. He's got them absolutely humming in this season. The easy one. What have you liked about the Phoenix so far?
I've liked their identity. I don't think they probably had a recognisable identity up until the end of last year. I think pretty much when Sam McKinnon took over and when Josh King then took over in a full-time capacity, you could see what they were trying to do. They won a lot of games into last year, and the coaching staff knew what they had coming into this year. They knew who they wanted to recruit, and they defend. The word I've been using is grittiness. There's a grittiness to the way they play that they haven't had in past years. You know, traditionally the Phoenix were up and down, but they get stomped on by the better teams. They just didn't have that toughness through shared experience, perhaps. But really enjoyed the way they've competed this year. Really enjoy their identity on the defensive end, and if they can mesh that together with, you know, even greater levels of consistency on the offensive end, yeah, they've positioned themselves to take a swing at this thing.
The next question on the list, which I love getting into with people, is what needs to change. They're currently third on the ladder. There's been a lot of change for them in terms of their identity, but what needs to change for them to elevate maybe into that top echelon of one or two teams in the second half of the season?
I think they need one of their imports to step up on the offensive end, and I always thought it might be Wezawundu with his creativeness with the ball, and he doesn't seem to aggressively be looking to score the ball, and that, of course, could be a directive from the coaching staff, but I think he's the one out of the three that has the capability to go from 10 points a game to 16, 17 points a game, but the ability to have that game where he has 25, and I don't think, from what I've seen, any of their three imports have shown a willingness to be that guy. To, if the team needs it and Sobi's not going great or Angus is in foul trouble, whatever it might be, okay, boys, we're good. I'm going to go and create a couple. I'll have the 25 tonight, and come with me. Just like to see probably Wezawundu step up. I think he's the one out of the three.
What about for the Phoenix and closing out those big games? We saw, I think, in rounds 1 to 10, they really struggled to meet United and 36ers and not get blown out of the water. They stay with them for almost 2.5 quarters. They can't finish off the game. Is that something that you think also needs to change for the Phoenix?
You know what? It was nearly my answer to your first question, but it's not so much anything changing. It's just being who they are for longer. And you are absolutely right that they've almost, the historical reputation of the Phoenix was they were United's little cousin or little brother, whatever it might be. And I think they need to find a way to prove to themselves that they can beat United or Adelaide before we get to the playoffs, so that when the playoffs arrive, in their minds, they've demonstrated the ability to do it, and it won't be the first time they're being asked to do something. You're right, they've been really competitive with those top two teams. But at the end of the day, the games got comfortable for the other two. And again, maybe it's that level of expectation that I think if you went into the United camp, we're not here to talk about them, but they would expect to beat the Phoenix every time they played. I think the Phoenix would hope to beat United more so than expect. So if that's a shift in mindset, if that just takes one game where they do it, that'll lead to that belief. I don't think it's anything that has to change. It's just something they need to tighten up. And if they can do that, I think they become a genuine title contender. But it's going to be difficult.
They almost need that muscle memory of wins and hard, gritty wins against the top teams. And like you said, I think it's sometimes a mindset thing going into these games. Oh, we're expected to lose this one, and then they come out and do. So I'm interested to see whether they can get a scalp in the second half of the season. Most improved player for the Southeast Melbourne Phoenix?
I still think it's got to be Owen Foxwell. Foxy's had an incredibly consistent year, and he's become a starting point guard in a very good team. I think the last couple of years, as he grew his way and developed his way into genuine rotation minutes, 2 years ago, he couldn't get into the rotation. Last year, I think most people saw him as the backup point guard come off the bench to support whichever import point guard they bring in. But he's a genuine starter in the NBL. He's been driving that team well. The tempo's been good. He defends up the floor. Exceptional levels of improvement and consistency from Foxy. He'd be my, ahead of Angus Glover, who I think's having an exceptional season as well. But I hope this comes across the right way. I think Angus probably played at a higher level for longer in previous years, which is why I'd give it to Foxy.
What about the team MVP? I think it's pretty obvious who this one's going to be, but maybe give us an insight into why Nathan Sobey has taken his game, I think, to a new level this season at the ripe old age of 36.
Yeah, you're right. It's, who's their MVP and why is it Nathan Sobey? I've just been really impressed with his composure this year. Some of his games in previous seasons, you'd probably argue that when he's on, he's incredible. When he's off, he's erratic. Gets off balance, probably forced different shots, different plays. Got frustrated. There seems to be a calmer or a greater level of calmness about him this year. He's more balanced. He seems more patient, and his decision making on the floor for me has been much improved. He's clearly their MVP. He's a guy that, as it sits at the moment, and he needs to be that, because without that level of consistency, as we've already spoken about the imports, without the ability for anyone else to step up and have that 20-something point game consistently, it's got to be him. And if he's erratic, then the team falls off a cliff. So a lot of credit to Nathan Sobey for his composure, his consistency, and consistency of high-level basketball this year. And I think the thing is, say when he was at Brisbane, he was playing an exceptionally high level of basketball on a team that couldn't win basketball games. He's doing it now on a team that is winning a lot more than what they're losing, and I think that's that's as great a credit. I think he's the number one guy on a team that can win a championship. He needs a little bit more help, but Sobes has had an exceptional first half of the season.
He's also the guy that when the scoring dries up for Phoenix as a whole, it doesn't really dry out for Nathan Sobey. He's still going out and getting those buckets late in the games. But one of my favourite things about Nathan Sobey, I need to say this because if he comes out in a game and does it again, it's a walk-up three to start the game. He doesn't look for anything else. He just wants to get that first three ball up. And I absolutely love that he's being aggressive with that because it's paying off this season. And most often than not, that first shot is going down and then he gets into his rhythm.
Yeah, that's interesting. Those walk-up threes, just to mention, Kel, they're the ones where you think of every shooting drill you do. It's exactly what you do. You straight line at the basket, your momentum straight at the rim. It's a better shot than people think. And if they know he's going to shoot it, they're in rebounding position, great. So I think a player like him's entitled to find his rhythm. I agree with you. I don't think it's a bad shot. It's a bad shot if they haven't scored in 4 possessions and no one's touched the ball for 3. But no, good on him. That level of confidence is impressive.
Yeah, he's great. Let's talk about stepping up. You've mentioned Weza Wundu. Is there anyone else on that roster that you think hasn't had the start to the season or hasn't come in and given what you expected for the Phoenix this year?
Pronounce it for me.
Maldonado.
Maldonado. I just think there have been times where, again, you probably critiqued a little bit unfairly as an import when you come into the league and more is expected of you. And that's just the way it is. And he's had some solid games, but it's funny what sticks with you when you're watching a player new to the league and you wonder what their ceiling is. And go back to the game where Phoenix got blown out in Adelaide, and he came up with a defensive play, was in the open court. One of Adelaide's bigs was chasing him down, and he shit himself and missed a layup, an uncontested layup, because he heard footsteps, and that concerned me. To be that toughness that the Phoenix need, you've got to be able to play through contact, hit people first, and not be worried about what's going on around you. But look, one of the three imports needs to step up. I genuinely don't think any team can win an NBL championship without an import being one of your best two, at worst, three players. And right now, I'd suggest that the Phoenix's best three players are Nathan Sobey, Owen Foxwell, and Angus Glover. One of their three, and maybe it's Melbourne. Look, one of their imports needs to step up on the offensive end. I think they've been solid defensively on the offensive end. I mean, it sounds like a broken record, doesn't it? One of those boys.
Last two questions. Where do you have them finishing in the standings? They're currently third on the ladder, played 13 games, won 9, lost 4. Where do you see them finishing? Can they jump over someone like a 36ers and a United, or do they drop?
They probably hold even. I think that those third and fourth spots are going to go to Perth and the Phoenix. I'm not sure in what order. And what I think we're going to find is United and Adelaide will get that bye through to the semi-finals, by my guess. And then it's going to be percentage, if not one game maximum, that separates 3 through 5 or 6. And so every game really, really matters for them. And if they can do what we've mentioned and take a big scalp, they'll be genuinely a top 3 or 4. If they drop a couple that they shouldn't, if Illawarra get rolling, or if the Kings get rolling and knock them over, they're not going to miss the play-in. They'll be 3 to 6. She's 4th, if I have to put a number on it. I just think there might be a loss in there somewhere to one of those teams chasing hard. But if they can end up sort of 18, 12, something like that, that'll put them in the top 4.
Your guess is as good as any, but I am interested to see how they can come out in the second half of the season, sustain the defensive pressure that they're putting out there, and like you said, potentially get a big scalp. Lastly, report card for the Southeast Melbourne Phoenix. They're third on the ladder. It can't be too harsh, but I am interested in a Chris Anstey grading.
Yeah, it's interesting because with everything we've just said, is you'd have a bit of a think about it. You really are sort of clutching at straws to figure out ways. I mean, they're 9-4, and I think they've exceeded people's expectations. I give them an A-. I think they've been really impressive. They've established an identity. They're sitting third on the ladder. They've done it without the top-end import talent, in my observation, that other teams have. And their level for improvement is still significant. So I think they've been coached very well. They've won games they're meant to win. We've gone over where they can get better, but I've been really impressed. A- for them. They're really, really impressed, and hoping that they continue their form through the second half of the season.
A- is generous for you, I think. I love it.
That's how I see. I mean, no point making one up just to get clicks, right? I think they've done really well, especially with the roster that they've got.
And they've got one of their big man, Geordie Hunter, shooting at over 50% from the arc. So things are going.
We actually messaged him. I told him it was nice to see him knocking down some threes and enjoying it. Got to love seeing a big who didn't probably feel confident shooting it a couple of years ago. Not only just shooting him into shot clocks, but yeah, he's got nice touch, Geordie. I've enjoyed his development as well.
Yeah, it's been an awesome season for the Southeast Melbourne Phoenix to begin this one. Rounds 1 to 10 are done. NBL 26 returns on Wednesday night. We've had a bit of a break, and I think everyone's chomping at the bit to get back into the action. As always, Chris, thanks so much for your time and your insights on this NBL Now, brought to you by Code Sports. You can go to codesports.com.au to check out all of the NBL info. It's your number one home for basketball. This has been NBL Now. I'm Kelsey Browne. Thanks so much for your time, and enjoy your afternoon.